Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am one of your hosts for this evening, and my awesome co-host is with me right now. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm the nameless, faceless ones. Nobody's here to see me. They're all here for you. It's all good.
No, they're not.
They're all here for you. They don't even like me. They're here for you. It's okay though. So now that Grok does free video, I'm considering seeing if I can have it make some sort of a cool video of us dancing to that music and make it the intro video for the show.
Oh no. Oh no. No. Everybody has been asking me, hey, why don't you do a video of your PFP, Avi, whatever, the avatar, whatever you want. I'm like, I'm literally laying in bed. The last thing I need to do is put this live. No, that's not happening.
See?
So
See, M even agreed with me. He said truer words have never been spoken. So see, they are here for you. They don't even like me.
But anyway, I have seen some of those videos, and some are pretty funny and some are pretty neat. And I like the ones that are like cartoonified before they're made into videos. I think Roddick actually does those, and he did one with me, and my hair was up, and I had glasses, and I was drinking, and it didn't look anything like me. But people said, "Oh no, that looks totally like you," and I'm like, "No, it does not, y'all." My nose is a lot rounder. My eyes are deep, like almost black. They're so dark brown. You can't even see the pupil. And my hair is a lot grayer.
Whatever. You're still the hottest of the two hosts on this show. So,
Okay, maybe not.
oh no,
It all depends on who's looking at you, which is tonight's theme.
Well, yeah, I had to redneckify the title a little bit because it's the age old question: is beauty in the eye of the beholder, or is it all about the one you beholding?
Nice. But I mean, seriously, it's a chicken or the egg question, because you just don't know. And what I happen to find attractive, most women would not. What most women find attractive, I happen to, and that's kind of icky to me. It's really weird. I'll be the first to admit, Brad Pitt, nope, never thought he was good looking. I have never thought Brad Pitt was good looking, and he holds the record for the largest selling poster of all time, which is from Legends of the Fall. That's how far back it went. So I'm like, yeah, no, his eyes are too close together. His jaw is kind of weird. His teeth don't really, no, there's no, just no. But that's me.
That's that whole anthropology thing again. You're like, his skull's not pretty, damn it. I can't do this. His skull's not pretty enough.
I know. But, but I take that aside because I know a lot of people find his ex-wife, Angelina Jolie, to be absolutely stunning. But there's also a section of men that I have heard that think she looks like a flat-faced fish. And I'm like, wow, okay. So that was one of the things that I did with my niece has, she bought the whole Adobe Photoshop thing or whatever a while back. And I said, bring up Angelina Jolie's and do a symmetrical, gauge her symmetry. And she is her face is one of the most symmetrical out there, which is why people are so drawn to it. Until you turn it sideways, the profile, it's like a flat fish. It's really weird. It's really strange. But, she is a very beautiful woman. But some men just don't think that she's all that. So, yeah, it depends.
Well, I think we've uncovered the secret. She's part alien and her part of her DNA is suckerfish.
Could be. I mean, at this point, with CERN having been, brought online a while back, I put nothing outside of the realm of possibility. Nothing.
Yeah, the funny thing is, according to some articles that I've been reading, CERN is actually in communication with interdimensional beings now. So I don't know. I don't know anything.
Does no one watch like movies anymore. Has no, I mean, the entire science fiction genre called almost everything that has happened, and we're still like, oh yeah, let's do it. You know, the whole just because you can doesn't mean you should has been thrown out the window completely.
Yeah, I did.
It's
I
just
didn't.
getting
I don't
it's
know.
scary.
I don't know why they're doing half the things they're doing anymore. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but you know, aside that, our topic for tonight is the ever-present question of beauty. And it was brought, I guess it was brought to the fore because of what happened with the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad. Because there were a lot of women. I did not find a single guy, gay or straight, that said she was ugly. I'm sure there are some guys that think, she's okay, she's mid or whatever, but no male outright said she was ugly. And flip it over to the female side, I found plenty. I found a lot. And, you know, as I would look at their, you know, profile picture and I would scour their social media to see, you know, what kind of stuff they posted and all that stuff, there was a certain pattern that was being established.
What
And
was that
looking-
pattern?
a lot of them did lean towards being liberal, for one. Some of them extremely so. But a lot of them actually did like to post their own visage on social media. And it wasn't just Twitter. I looked at this at Facebook and Instagram as well. They and Instagram, I don't think really counts because that's actually for you to post yourself in. So I really didn't count much of that. But over on Facebook, I would see a lot of um, acquaintances that do tend to vote blue, tend to be more blue than red, tend to post a lot more facial, you know, stuff and everything. And it doesn't, I mean, it's like they'll be talking about they bought a new scarf, for example. They don't put the picture of the scarf. They put a picture of themselves wearing the scarf. So the scarf is actually secondary because it's around their neck. And if you look at the picture centrally, it's their face. It's not the scarf. So it was that kind of, you know, that I saw. And a lot of them, some of them were pretty ladies, some of them were not that pretty, you know, and some of them actually took the steps to it's hard for me to say, but they try to erase their beauty by doing things to their face in order to detract from it, you know. Multiple piercings. There were some that had tattoos on their faces. There were quite a few that had dyed hair, admittedly, but some were not dyed in weird colors. Um, but you know, there was definitely a pattern going on. Now, I did see some right wing gals that actually thought she wasn't all that great, but there was no vitriol coming from the right as much as it was from the left. There were a few right wing accounts that did. A lot of them tend to be bigger accounts that profess to try to preserve conservatism, but you and I would call them grifting accounts,
Yeah.
you know. And so they took issue with it. But you know, I took a step back and I was like, if this had been my daughter, I'd be very proud of the fact that she has made a career and has established herself so well. I'd be proud of the fact that my genes contributed to that face, you know? No pun
Right.
intended. But, you know, there were a lot of people that were just not embracing the fact that this young woman actually put herself out there. And she took a chance because she knew that she would get heat for this. And still she said, yes, let's do this. And I admire that. Today I found out that Lizzo actually did a lampoon of Sydney Sweeney. and she was wearing jeans and a jean shirt or something. And she said, my jeans are black. And I'm like, had her jeans been black,
It would have
that
been
would have been good. It would have been good. But they weren't. They were blue.
Problem is they weren't.
Huh?
I said the problem is she was wearing blue jeans. All right, so this has to be done. We interrupt this program for the following message because I just saw that he reposted the stream and he likes to lurk in the chat. VC, Diriba Fugazi, VC. Sorry, Vincent Charles likes to just lurk and repost the chat. So every time I see that, I do that. I don't know why.
He's such a sweetheart. But yeah, I saw Lizzo's response, and I gotta give Lizzo some props here. She has been working on losing weight and everything, and that's great. And I've seen pictures from when she was younger. I think she's a very pretty lady. I've never felt that she didn't have a good looking face. I always thought that she was very cute, and she's very talented. I will not detract from her talent. That woman can play up teen different instruments. She is a very well established flautist in her own right. She chooses to do rapping, or whatever. That's fine. But she is a very well established musician, and she has proven that. So I cannot take that away from her. But
so just to make sure, flautist isn't a euphemism, right?
It's not. I mean, I remember when she played the glass flute, and everybody was up in arms about it. I'm going, so you would rather see that thing just collect dust than it being played by someone who knows how to play a flute? I didn't understand the whole uproar over it. I thought that it was kind of cool that she actually showed her talent using an instrument that most of the public didn't even know existed. And it brought attention to an historical fact that most people would have, gone to their graves not ever knowing. So I think what she did was really cool, and she did. She played it. She killed it. So, but doing this ad, when she puts herself out there, and yes, go girl, you're losing weight. I'm very proud of you. But there was a pun in the original ad that she missed out on. And had she worn the black jeans, it would have been perfect. But they can't seem to actually grasp it.
There's two things that are fairly consistent about the left. They can't meme and they're not punny. So I kind of understand why they missed it.
That's pretty much true. And I mean, there's some people on the left that obviously do have a sense of humor. Burke's Breathe that actually comes to mind, Bloom County, but there's not a lot. No. That said, we were discussing the fact that, Lizzo did this thing, and I was in another chat group with some of my girlfriends, and I happened to say, Lizzo's a pretty lady. She really is. And when she's not wearing a hefty bag, she looks really nice. And one of the girls said, what was it that she said? She said, I just can't get past how crass she is. So I never see her face. I always just see her attitude. And that was eye-opening too, because that is something else that a lot of people look for that attracts them to another person. The first thing that you see is the physical attributes of the person. That's the first thing that attracts you to that person. And that's where the whole beauty in the eye of the beholder comes in. I mean, we are programmed to actually seek out the beauty. You want to see those genes passed down through your children, that kind of thing. But what I think is pretty is not what Orty thinks it's pretty, and it's not what you think it's pretty, and it's not what Danielle thinks it's pretty. See, it's all different. I mean, it's all part of a design, because if we all thought one thing was pretty, we'd all be fighting for the same thing.
Right.
So I think it's kind of neat that I mean, seriously, everybody jokes about me and seeing a guy in a kilt. And I'm like, I don't care what the guy looks like as long as he's wearing a kilt. I'm like totally there. I'm very happy. I am so I cannot tell you how happy I am. One year, I was at a military ball, and we were hosting a gentleman from Scotland. He was actually at the post that we were stationed at, and it was kind of an exchange type of thing. And so he goes to the military ball, and he's wearing his kilt, full regalia. And I am looking at this man the entire time. My girlfriend's sitting next to me. Is like, what do you keep looking at? And I didn't care who was with me. I pointed straight to him and I said, him. He is beautiful.
Yeah.
The guy was not a good looking guy. No, he wasn't. I mean, she was looking at him going, you think so? He's okay, but I don't think he's all that handsome. I said, I didn't say handsome. I said beautiful. Look at what he's wearing. And she's like, a skirt? I'm like, oh my God. I was so embarrassed. You know what my husband did?
What did your husband do?
My husband got up and went to talk to him because he knew him and asked him to ask me to dance because I was dying. And so he came over and he asked me to dance, and I had a lovely time. And I told him straight off, and I said, I have been staring at you because you're wearing a kilt, and to me, that is the be all and end all. I told him straight up to his face, and he just started laughing. And he was like, I was very surprised that your husband came to get me to ask you to dance. And it's like, oh no, my husband knows my weakness. Trust me, this has been going on since I was like 12.
It started yesterday, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I wish, but it's always been that way. The running joke in my family is if Quasimodo were wearing a kilt, I would totally date them. Totally, no questions asked. But to me, that is something that attracts me to the opposite sex. Is that wearing of that regalia is just, to me, very attractive. The guy doesn't have to be Tom Cruise. He doesn't have to be, okay, if he were Henry Cavill, I'd be totally down with it. I'm not gonna lie. But you see, I mean, we are programmed. There is something in our genetics that are programmed to actually seek out what we find as beautiful, and we're attracted to that beauty first. Afterwards, we start looking for the inner workings of that beauty. Because, as everybody knows, icing is fine, but cake is where it's at. So you want to have the inside be as good, if not better, than the outside.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually, I guess, one of the aberrations because I always pay more attention to the inside than the outside, honestly.
Well, that's how. But we tend to start shifting that way as we grow older. As we mature, we actually understand, beauty is fleeting. It isn't a permanent thing. It's something that it is enhanced. But what's inside, you cannot really enhance unless you're, outright lying to somebody. So that's where, as we mature, we start shifting our focus to, the way they think, the things they like, how their heart, their kindness, all of those things that's what attracts us to people. And that is something that I am so glad my husband saw, because I know y'all joke saying, oh no, you're very pretty, blah, blah, blah. But no, y'all, you have no idea, growing up with 3 other sisters that were beautiful. I mean, one of my sisters was actually in the running for 17 magazine the year that Kathy Ireland got it. She came in, she was a my sister was a semi-finalist. So, it's like that.
Oh, whatever. You're still beautiful. And Danielle, some of us would like to know the answer to that question too. And if so, we want pictures.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I'll pay back. Oh, speaking of those jeans, my sister actually went out of her way to go find an American Eagle, and she bought a pair of the Sydney jeans They're not even in her size. She didn't care because the money goes to charity. She just wanted to do that for charity.
Oh, that's awesome,
So
actually.
so I'm like, well, what size are they? And she said, well, I think she said 14, 16. I don't know what it was. And I said, you can have them tailored. And she's like, no, I just wanted to own them. I just wanted my money to go to charity. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she calls me like 2 hours later. You know what? Maybe I can get them tailored because she's just a couple of sizes down from there. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, But her daughter went insane, and her daughter is like a slip of a girl. I mean, she's really tiny, very elfin, and she was online and she wanted to buy. They're all sold out. Her
Aw.
sizes, and she is just bereft. And her, my sister, her mother said, "Well, I would give you these, but they'd actually you'd fit in one leg as it is, so it'd be like a skirt."
Aggie be like, wait, did somebody say skirt? Just kidding.
Yes. Is it plaid?
This,
Yeah, that
expla-
was
this explains so much of the G thing, though, because he was always talking about having his kilt on when he was showing you guys the picture of his abs. So now I get even more about why you were always like, oh my God.
I mean, I remember when he posted that picture where he was all ripped and everything, and I was like, holy crap. But you know what? As much as I admired it, because it took a lot of work, a lot of hard work for him to look the way he did. It's not something that I'm attracted to. If somebody has a lot of muscles going on and everything, that actually does not look pretty to me because it's not natural. Strong man, the strong man body type, that's natural. That looks attractive to me. But I'm going to be turning 59 this year. So what I think is attractive, some 29-year-old is not going to think is attractive, So like I said, it just depends on the age range. It actually even depends on the culture. I can tell you, going back to Puerto Rico, it amazed me constantly that every single woman that I knew that dyed her hair blonde, every guy thought she was beautiful. And I just thought she looked cheap because she's dyeing her dark hair blonde. But every guy in my hometown thought, the blondes were the most beautiful women, even though it came from a bottle. And I was like, no, it doesn't look good.
That was the era of blondes have more fun, though. So that doesn't make sense.
No, and it's still something that's there. It's still something that's going on. My sisters actually went on a trip several years ago, and one of my sisters actually had blonde streaks in her hair, and some of the people that we grew up with were like, "Your hair is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, why don't you just go completely blonde?" And my sister decided to do it, and she went completely blonde. And and her husband will let her do whatever keeps her happy. And I looked at it and I said, this looks so wrong. She doesn't have the coloring for blonde hair. She just doesn't. And so I was like, yeah, but I had to be kind. I said, I like how natural it looks in the hair. It's not one solid color, but it it washes you out. It really does. You need to be more dark. And she's like, yeah, you're right. And thank God she said that, because otherwise she would have thrown a chancla at me. I know she would have, all the way from Puerto Rico.
Bite
But
your tongue, Amish. Bite your tongue, Amish. I'm just
but when she went blonde while she was in Puerto Rico, everybody was like, wow, you look so great. You look wonderful. You look stunning, blah, 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 blah. These are the same people that saw her a week before with dark hair and said nothing. So it's really strange, when it comes, like I said, culture does have something to do with it. I lived in Germany for 3 years, could not understand why it was that so many young German men preferred women who were completely like their hair was like it looked like different colors and spiky and and all that stuff, and they just thought that was their definition of beauty. There were three young ladies that lived right down from me. My German friend had three daughters, and so that's how they would style themselves, and they would pierce things and wear chains from their nose to their ear. And I thought, are you Bajoran or what the hell's going on? But nobody understood my reference. And then they would pierce their eyebrows and their ears, and one of them actually pierced her arm, so it had safety pins running down. Like she had like 5 or 6 safety pins running down uh, the her bicep. And I was like, that can't be comfortable. She's like, well, after a while, you don't feel it. They all had pierced nipples. I did not want to see. I just took their word for it. And that was a definition of beauty that I did not understand, but it was very popular in Germany. I don't know if it still is, but it was back then. So it just depends, when it comes to beauty, it depends on cultural norms, social mores, that kind of thing. I mean, I studied a lot of African cultures, and their definitions of beauty were completely different than, Puerto Rico's definitions of beauty. So that has a lot to do with it too.
Oh, dang it. I've been sitting here talking away and forgot I was muted. I coughed for a second and went to mute and then forgot I was
Oh,
muted. I was making a salient point too, and now I forgot what it was because I got all flustered. Anyway.
see, Ordy, I agree. Lonnie Anderson looked better as a brunette than she did as a blonde, but she made her mark as that blonde, and she stayed that platinum blonde forever. And it's a pity. Angie Dickinson, there's another one. She was gorgeous as a brunette, but then came Policewoman, and she went blonde, and she stayed blonde for a very long time. So,
Looking for new co-host. Any takers?
me?
No, me.
Why?
How dare you disparage blonde Lonnie?
I'm not disparaging her. I'm just saying that she looked better as a brunette than she did as a blonde.
Lies.
She didn't look bad as a blonde.
Lies.
I just okay, fine, whatever.
Just teasing. But no, it's funny because I was, and I talked about this a little bit the other day. When I was waiting on the tech to get here the other day, because he was supposed to come out Tuesday, and I didn't realize he got hung up on another job, but he didn't tell me until pretty late in the day. So I turned on Paramount Plus. I'm sorry, it was actually on Prime. They had a documentary about the 55th anniversary of Star Trek, and it actually opened with the whole Desilu story. And there are a couple things in there that I didn't know. One, I did not know Lucille Ball was not a natural redhead. She was
No,
not.
she was not.
But dying her, even though most of her TV work was done in the black and white era, one of her agents in the beginning of her career convinced her to dye her hair that color, and she got noticed by everybody. So it stayed that way.
Yeah, and I mean that happens too. I've known people who I actually have a friend who's a natural brunette, but she looks better as a blonde. Like she has blonde coloring. One of my favorite accounts here, Kat, domestic CEO Kat. She's actually blonde, but she looks better as a redhead. She has red coloring. So it depends on your coloring. Sometimes you're not born with the right coloring to match your hair. I mean, I have dark brown hair. Well, I had dark brown hair. Now it's streaked with a lot of gray. But I don't know if you guys remember when I dressed up as Janet Leigh in Psycho, I had a blonde wig on and I looked horrible. I mean, that blonde just looked awful on me. And so you can understand why whenever I see an Hispanic woman in Puerto Rico being blonde, unnaturally blonde, it irks me because it just doesn't match their skin tone. It doesn't match their coloring. It drives me nuts. To tell you the truth. But one of my best friends from, she's been my friend since 91. She's a natural blonde, but her coloring favors red hair more. So she has dyed her hair red for a very long time. And slowly she has let her gray come back out. And so now the gray is out. But as the gray grows, her naturally blonde hair has been turning brown. So she says, I have no idea what's going on. I was like, I couldn't tell you. I don't know either. But like I said, it depends on your coloring. Some people can get away with it. Obviously, I cannot. I tried coloring my hair once. It was chocolate cherry, and I can tell you right now, I stayed in my house for weeks until I could get most of that out.
Oh, you said it was called, the hair color was called what again?
It was called chocolate cherry. And my next door neighbor actually kind of conned me into getting it done because she had an auburn color going on with her hair, and she was a brunette, but she kind of liked the auburn look or whatever. And she said, "This would look great on you." And I'm like, okay. And this is when the gray started to show up. I had like maybe 5 or 6 grays. It wasn't that big a deal. This was several years. This was in 2000.
Wait, you knew 5 or 6 aliens? Really?
Gray hairs. And so I went and I had it done, and I was like, what the hell did I just do? And it was permanent. And I had to wait several weeks before I could go have it corrected. And so I just stayed home. And whenever I had to go grocery shopping, I would put my hair up and wear a hat. I wore a cap all the time. And I mean, I sent a picture to my sister. I took a picture with my camera. I developed it because I had one of those little developing things, it was when the SD card cameras came out. And I sent it to my sister. She's like, what did you do? It was really bad. I bet she still has that picture too, and she's waiting to just use it on someday.
Yeah,
but
it'll be a blackmail moment.
But anyway, moving away from me, the concept of beauty, like I said, it's been something that we are geared to actually go towards. It's part of the whole procreation process. You see it in the kingdom Animalia all the time. All of the male birds have beautiful, vibrant plumage. The females do not, because the male birds are trying to attract the females. So it's the females that are going, "Ooh, he's pretty." Yeah. And
it's funny how that's different for us, because I've always found that interesting. That all the male are the ones that are like super, like got extra plumage, pretty plumage, multiple colors, do all the strutting and the dancing and whatever, and the chicks just sit back. I'm like, kind of glad I'm not a bird. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I mean, and it's not just birds. I mean, look at the bucks and the does. I mean, the doe is cute, but the buck, he's got it going on with that rack. He's the one with the rack. I always thought that was kind of unfair, unless you're a reindeer.
I was gonna say, reindeer. Reindeer. They both have racks, which I thought was I never knew that until later in life. So I always thought that was kind of weird. Like, wait, what now?
Yeah. But the entire, I guess, animal kingdom. I don't know. Do you see it with fish? I don't think so. Fish are different. But mammals, usually the male is more attractive looking than the female. Before I couldn't tell you where the male beaver and the female beaver were. Now that I've had to deal with them, I can tell which one's the male by the tail and the fur. So his is, I don't know how to describe it. It's more resplendent. I have no idea. It's darker, but like I said, they have to. The males always have to attract the females. It's the grackles. I love watching the grackles when it's time for them to actually start the mating thing, because and crows to crows when they start the male crow fluffing up and everything. That is just so cute to me. And of course, I'm watching the female going, yeah, you're not good enough, flying away. It's kind of cold, but it's true. But I guess they call it, what, peacocking? Is that what is that the term now, where men actually are now doing the same as women? They dress to impress, and they dress to try and get the attention of women. And I'm like, I never had to deal with that when I was growing up. I never dealt with guys that were peacocking, so to speak. There were guys that adhered to the fashion norms of the day, parachute pants. to, to throw one out there, and you know, back in the '80s. But I I never saw the whole peacocking thing. I see it more now, which is kind of weird to me, and I don't understand it.
I never really have either. I don't know. I've decided I'm too old for this. So I've kind of just checked myself out of all of it after a couple of times of trying the dating scene again. I was like, you know what? It's all too weird for me now. I can't. Nope. 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 I'm done.
No, I have several friends in my age range who are single, who are like done. They're like, you know what? Um, they either tried the marriage thing and it didn't work out, or their spouse, passed away, and they're like, I don't want to do this again. And they're concentrating more on finding something that interests them outside of human interaction, which is fine, but you can get lonely. I have my y'all remember Charlie, my friend, the one who was my first kiss, and then 2 weeks later he came out as gay. He and his husband, they're moving to France. He sent me a message and say, "Hey, um, Tony and I are moving to France, and we were wondering if you would be interested in, like, being our pen pal or something, because he knows that I like writing letters." And I'm like, "Yes, I am so totally there." So they're actually now starting to organize everything. They're downsizing things. They're putting some things in storage, and then they're going to be moving completely over to France. So they have to get their work visas. They have to get all that stuff done. They're actually, all of their work is remote anyway, so they can live in France and still work here in the United States. But because it is France, you do have to pay taxes regardless of where your work is at. So
Yeah.
that's why they need to get all of that situated. Um, they've found a place, they've done this, they've done that. And of course, me being me, I asked Charlie, well, how is the gay situation where you're going to be living? Now, he understood what I was asking. I, I wasn't asking if there were, gay baths or anything like that. What I was asking was that, have you checked to see if there are accommodations for same sex marriage? Because even though it's legal in France, there are certain areas in France that don't particularly like it,
Yeah.
because of the population that has moved into these certain areas. So that's what I was asking him. And he said, yeah, we checked it out. It's actually fine there. There is, he's his husband is more scared about what Trump's going to do or whatever. And there's no reasoning with him. So I just leave him alone. But for the most part, they're all very excited about moving over there. And one of the things that struck me was that I remember when we were in high school, Charlie telling me that his lifelong dream would be to live in France. That was his dream. And for him to have found a spouse, that was great. But for them both to actually want to live that dream is amazing to me. And that for me was true beauty because they're finally moving ahead. They found the beauty within each other and now they're finding a beauty outside of that, unified as one that they can work towards. And that's another step, I think, in finding what's beautiful to you. So it doesn't always have to be something that's physical. It can be an emotional manifestation, and it could be a goal. It could be, finally working on that stupid list of things to do before you die list. you know, and I have found beautiful things when I have worked on my list that I did not expect. So, I have a lot of friends that don't understand. I have absolutely no problem being in the desert, but a lot of people do because they think that there's nothing there. And I'm like, that's because you're not looking. You're never looking at what's in the desert. And it's like, it's just a bunch of rocks. And I'm going, you have no idea what's living under those rocks, do you? Now, admittedly, I've been on I-20 between Fort Worth and Pecos, and I will say, I'll be the first one to say that is very solitary out there, and it is rocky, and there is nothing out there. And it's still beautiful. It looked like Mars. I could have sworn Sojourner actually landed there instead of Mars. But there's still a certain beauty. When you look at the pictures of Mars, there is a certain beauty, and in that you could say, oh my goodness, it's so desolate. And I'm like, yeah, but look at the way nature has carved out that planet. I mean, to me, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. So looking for beauty outside of the physical is, once we get that point past maturity, we start looking past the physical and everything. But there are some things where the beauty of the physical beauty is the complete manifestation of someone's talent, of someone's, work. And so it's okay to appreciate the physical as well.
No, I mean completely. It's just funny because when you were talking about those folks moving, I saw something today, and it kind of got me thinking. I don't remember. Was one of the it was one of the like the I think it was Holland or someplace. They have such a glut of houses like in rural areas that are sitting empty that they're actually trying to import people to come in. They'll give you $1 million to move there and then pay you $2,000 a month for 3 years.
Yes,
With
I
all
have.
with all my work being remote, I was like, I can move there for $1 million.
I know. One of my friends from college, she's seriously thinking about going to Italy and buying one of the villas there and restoring it. And for her, it's not about living there. For her, it's about restoring it to it being pretty again. And she like, I mean, some days she will be on a computer looking at these things for like hours. And I'm like, hun, you've got it. Just close it. Just close it. You're not going to make your decision right now. But she's moving towards making that decision. And for her, it hurts her. She's an architect, by the way, so that should kind of tell you. It hurts her to see these beautiful villas, these country homes that have been there since before World War I, just going, just decaying, and it hurts her. And she's like, they have this program whereby you can buy it, and if you have to refurbish it within 12 months, and everything and all that stuff. But she wants to find one that the town will buy back. So she wants to put in the work, she wants to put in the money and everything, and then sell it back to the town. She doesn't want to sell it to somebody. So that's one of the things that's holding her up right now. But that's for her, the reestablishment of the beauty that was, that for her is That's her be all and end all when it comes to beauty. And she cannot go by a building without just looking at it and criticizing it. It doesn't matter what the building is. I don't care. She doesn't even care when it was built. But she will actually say, there's one building. There's a building in Tyler. It's all cement. It looks, excuse me, I want to say it was built in the early 70s or so when cement was the big deal, but it's very brutalist. It's very communist looking. She hates that building. It's now for sale, and she's seriously trying to talk her firm into purchasing that building. And I was like, why? You hate that building. She's like, I do. But if I get my hands on that building, I can make it look prettier. And I'm like, oh my God, you really have a serious issue because she wants to change every single building that she sees. And I can't help it. Now every time I pass that building, I just see the ugliness of that building. And before I used to see that it was, a certain aesthetic from a bygone era that, most people don't cotton to nowadays. But, back then, back in the 70s, remember everything was made out of concrete, exposed concrete and everything and all that stuff, to make it look, I don't know, make it look hip or something. But for her big passion in life is making things look beautiful again. And for those wondering, she's what I would call an environmental architect. She likes to marry the building to the surroundings. So if she is surrounded by piney areas or whatever, she prefers the materials to actually echo the wood that's harvested there. So she's very anal about that thing. But that's her version of beauty. Also, she's never found a man to her liking or a woman to her liking. She is just not a people person. She likes friends, but she is very married to what she does. And so she's told herself, yeah, I'm never going to have a relationship. I don't have time for it. So she doesn't even look at a person for any possibilities. She doesn't look for that kind of beauty. To her, we all look alike. We're all gray and we're named Chet to her. Okay. So that's another, that's an instance of a person whose aesthetic falls away from the human condition completely. She's one of the funniest people I know, but that is one of the things that I've never actually met somebody that can just not have a relationship with a person on a one-to-one basis. She's one of them. She just can't. She just can't.
Too much love to give, man.
I think it's more of the fact that she recognizes that she doesn't have the time to give anybody. She wants to do so many things that having a person would actually hold her back. And she's never actually recognized that maybe having a personal relationship with someone could actually incentivize her to do something that as grand as going to Italy to redo one of the houses or whatever it is that she wants to do. But, we can't all think that way, I guess.
Yeah, I have a friend who's like that.
Really?
Well, she got divorced around the same time that I did, and she's always like, "Well, I'm just gonna stay single till I get my life together again." I'm like, "Then you're gonna be single forever, because if you're waiting for perfect, it's never gonna happen."
No, and that's another thing. A lot of people base their concept of beauty on a certain perfection, but the perfection is never the same for anybody. Like what I would consider to be perfectly beautiful, the guy in the kilt, some people would be like, my God, why would you even look at this guy?
Why do you have a thing for a dude wearing a dress?
And I'm like, I'm not even looking at him. I'm looking at his legs.
So this just in, Aggie's a leg woman.
I am. Never skip leg day, people. Never skip leg day.
If you're looking for a way into Aggie's heart, nice legs and a good skull. There you go.
Yeah. Oh man, but like I said, there what some people find perfection in their beauty, in the beauty that they seek, is absolutely atrocious to somebody else. Um, most people, going back to the Sydney Sweeney ad, most people think that this is a gorgeous woman. And I thought at first she's, like she has a chocolate um, prettiness. And what I mean by that is like a candy,
Yeah.
like the candy box, a box of candy, that kind of prettiness. The more I learn about her, the more I'm impressed and the prettier she becomes. So, um, I and it's the same thing with uh, Chris Evans. He played
Yeah.
Captain America, correct? I will say I don't like his politics, but those are his politics, whatever. But the more I learned about him and how he grew up and his parents and everything, the more I began to like him. I thought that the more attractive he became. A lot of people think he's attractive. Honestly, I didn't think he was all that. I didn't. But that's because I'm 59, okay? I still would date Sean Connery's carcass, okay? But
throw him
this
in a
guy
kilt
just looked
and
pretty.
change your mind.
Yeah, probably. But the more I learned about how he grew up and how his parents raised him, and the things that he respects, all of those things actually made him more attractive. And and the same can be said in the opposite way. When Pedro Pascal, I never thought he was good looking. I still don't. I don't think he's a good looking man, but some women are out there salivating over this guy. He seems to be in every movie now. And
Am I the only one who thinks he looks like Dirk Dastardly from the cartoons?
You are not. You are not the only one, because the first time I saw Pedro, that's what I thought. Now, Pedro grew up in the same area that I lived in, back in San Antonio. So I was kind of familiar with him before he made it big and everything. But the more I learn about Pedro, the less I find him attractive. It actually makes him look worse. And he has certain issues. I'm Hispanic, okay? I know that whole touchy-feely thing in Hispanic circles is a thing, and I get to enjoy it with my Hispanic friends. I get to enjoy it in my family. I get to enjoy it back home whenever I'm in Puerto Rico, whenever I'm in Mexico, with my Mexican friends and everything. He goes far. He goes further than that, and that's a problem. He covers it up by saying, well, I feel better because I'm Hispanic. And I'm like, no, that's not it.
Yeah,
I know what Hispanics do, and that's not it.
he's taking it to Biden levels.
Yes. And somebody, called me out on it. It's like, how can you think that way? You're Hispanic. You should know better. I'm like, I do know better. That's the point. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is not the way Hispanic men are. The Hispanic men that are like that tend to be abusive. That has been my experience in Puerto Rican culture, in Mexican culture, in other Hispanic cultures that I've come across, like Cubans and such. So, yeah, the more I learn about him, the less attractive he becomes. And he wasn't attractive to me in the first place, but I know some women that are like, oh my God, he's beautiful. And I'm like, I don't see it, but okay, you go, girl, whatever. Ron Perlman is another perfect example. His was the first skull I ever wanted in my collection. I'm not going to lie. As soon as I saw him in Beauty and the Beast, remember the TV show?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Well, they did they were doing a premiere or something or whatever, and he was out there with Linda Hamilton, and I saw that, head, and I was like, that skull is awesome. I can't get over it. I could not get over it. I just thought he had a great skull. Okay. He's not a good looking man, but he has a great skull. And, for a long time I was a big fan. And it wasn't until the advent of social media where, you saw them posting things and, whatever, reaching out to people outside of interviews on Entertainment Weekly or Premiere Magazine or whatever it was that they had back then. Then I started learning more about him, and it was just, he's not a nice person. He's not really all that, he's not even smart. No. Okay. Now I don't want his skull. That's how bad. I don't want his skull anymore. And that's saying a lot because his skull is great.
I don't
I
want
know.
his skull anymore. I don't want his skull anymore is probably the weirdest sentence I've ever heard you utter.
But and that's the trick about finding somebody attractive. This physical is first. Then comes the mental and the emotional, and if you're not satisfied with those two, that physical actually becomes a detractor. And that has been my opinion and my experience. It might be different for somebody else, but the physical is the icing. With the mental and the emotional, those are the cake layers. And icing's just there for fluff. The true, the what you want is the cake. So that's, I know it's I just don't want his skull anymore.
I don't know. Ever since you told me that somebody was giving you trouble on social media about that, like, you should know better. You're Hispanic. I can't get this out of my head. The first thing I thought of was you in your head. Escucha, pendeja.
Oh my God, y'all. Y'all know my mom is here, right? And she's staying with us for another week, an extra week, because my sister, who was going to take her back home, she's still out of town, so she's not been able to come and pick her up, which is fine. Mom has been doing all sorts of stuff in my garden. The problem is I'm the laborer. She tells me what to do. So I'm the laborer. And I'm like, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've only had half a cup of coffee. And she has me out there digging for weeds and shit. So today, I thought we had the day off. No, we went out to get mulch. Okay. To get bags of mulch. And I'm like, this woman is trying to kill me. But I heard her on the phone and she was yelling at somebody. And I'm like, why is she yelling at somebody? I don't understand. What is she talking to? And she did say that. Escúchame. It's like she's mad at somebody. I don't want to know who it is. She came inside and it was one of my cousins. So I was like, whew, okay, cool. Everything's good. If she's mad at one of my cousins, that's fine. It could be one of 100. I don't know. But, whatever. But yeah, she's been a trooper. And, she actually paid me a really cool compliment the other day. I'm out there digging and I'm out there yanking weeds. We repotted some plants. We did this. We actually replanted. We actually took some plants and replanted them in another place because she thought they would look better over there. And I'm like, whatever keeps her happy, whatever keeps my mom happy and focused, because this is all new for her, having lost her husband just 2 months ago. So almost to the day. Tomorrow will be 2 months since my dad passed. And so I'm trying to keep her focused on what makes her happy. Well, the gardening makes her happy, but I'm the one suffering. So she has me out there anyway, and I'm digging and doing this and everything and all that stuff. And after, we finished, and the sun got too strong. We came back inside and we're chugging water and whatever. And she says, you know, you do everything without complaint. And I am so very proud of the fact that you still think of me as your mom. And my first thought was like, right now I'm thinking of you as my executioner, but I didn't say that. It was nice. And I was like, well, of course I'm going to think of you as my mom. I don't understand. It's like, no, this is your house. You should be telling me what you want me to do. And I'm like, absolutely not. Not when it comes to the garden. You can do whatever you want out there. I don't know how to take care of a garden the way she does. Literally, I gave her a stick that somebody had given me a plant. Okay.
Yeah.
And I brought it home Christmas. It was a stick in a pot. I thought she might like the pot, so I brought it home. This was in college. It turned out to be a rubber plant, and she made it grow like 6 feet. And I was like, "How? This is the plant. This was the stick I brought you." It's like, "Oh yeah, You just needed to water it. That's all you need to do." I'm like, "No, you did something else. I don't know if it was voodoo or something, but she did something else." But that was, that's another thing that a lot of people have found attractive about my mom is that she is constantly doing something for someone indirectly. They don't even notice until after she's done it. Her neighbors, I mean, mom will actually make like too much of a meal and she'll put some in the freezer and then she'll take some to the next door neighbor. And because the next door neighbor is actually the assistant chief of police or whatever,
Yeah.
she knows that sometimes he has night shift. And so she'll go over there and say, hey, here's some food. Take it with you so that you have lunch during your night shift. She just does these little things for everybody in the neighborhood. And I mean, I was just, there are days that when I was down there, I would get up at 7. Mom was already out of the house. She was already running an errand down the street for somebody. And that is something that I've always found to be beautiful about my mom. She's always thinking about somebody else. Every single one of my cousins, she always thinks about them. And she knows all of their names, all of their birthdays, their wedding anniversaries, how many kids they each have by now. She knows all these things. And she doesn't keep them written down. These are all in her head. And she's like, oh, today so-and so's birthday. I need to give them a call. And she will call them. She will ask if they need anything. And some of them will actually say, well, we could do with some money. And my mom, without question, just sends it. And I'm like, okay, that you need to stop doing. Because now you're able to fix income for one. And for another, these people have their own jobs. I know that for a fact. So stop giving them money. But she's, she's always done that. And when my dad passed away, um, they all, they were constantly calling. All of my cousins were constantly calling my mom, to talk to her, to see how she was, if there was anything they could do, that kind of thing. And, she brought us up to be just like her. And so that's one of the things that I like to do. I do things for other people just because I want to, not because they need it done, but just because I want to. My neighbor, she's recently passed away. She had multiple sclerosis. One of the things she had, twin girls. There were 7, and they loved Legos. Hey, I found the kids, with Legos, but they didn't have a lot of Legos. My kids had tons of Legos that they just didn't play with anymore. I mean, I'm talking a garbage bag full of Legos.
That's a lot of Legos.
That's a lot of Legos. I just packed all that stuff up and I actually divided everything by color, not by size. I did color. Okay. So I had several boxes, several those plastic shoe boxes. And I wrote, the colors, and all that stuff and everything. And I went up there and I said, I know that these are not brand new, but they're still really cool. So, enjoy them. And she was just in tears. She's like, I couldn't even afford to give them a brand new. This is incredible. And I was like, no, don't think anything of it. This is just stuff that was there. I don't need this stuff. I have my own Legos. And the girls, you play with Legos? I said, oh, yeah. So I spent the next 2 hours building stuff with them. Because, their mom was sick. She had multiple sclerosis and she couldn't actually do a lot. And so those 2 hours. And those girls were just above and beyond so thrilled to have somebody play. Like they would, she would send me a message. The girls want to know if you want to come up and play Legos. Oh, I was walking out of here before that, before as I was messaging, I'm on my way. I'm actually walking. And so I would go up there and I would play with them. And it was, it was something so that I could give the mom a break and she could rest and she could, do those things. But I found joy in it because they were making the girls happy and it was giving, the mom a break and she could do things for herself that she couldn't do, while she was entertaining the girls. And so it was a win-win for everybody. And, that to me is something that my mom gave me that I found to be beautiful. That's part of my beauty. And I will own it because I know it's beautiful because I see it in everybody else that does the same thing. So, but that is something that most people looking at me would not know. I cannot possibly tell you how often I have filled the food bank. There's a little food, those little lending libraries.
Yeah.
Well, they have one that looks like a little bigger. It's a food bank. I actually go there after dark so that people don't see me and don't see my car, and I will fill it up. And I would do this once a week until I got caught. And so, yeah, and by getting caught, I mean that one of my friends in town was actually driving by and recognized my car when her lights saw it. So she called me up and said, were you at the little food bank? And I said, yeah, that was me. And so she told her cousin who runs the antique mall downtown. And so she told other people. And so everybody found out that I had been the one that had been filling it up. And so I said, yeah. And because of what I did, people started getting incentivized to actually fill it up. So now people take turns filling it up every week. And so that kindness has spread to others. And, I found that brought out the beauty in other people, And, there was one time that I had, that I was driving by and I saw a lady and she was actually opening to take, a can out. And so I turned around and I came back because I had just gone to the grocery store and she, she was looking at the can and she was like debating whether or not she should take more. And I said, hi, it's like, I said, are you taking? And she's like, yeah, but I feel kind of bad. I was like, no, don't feel bad. This is, and
That's
so
what
I
it's
grabbed,
for.
I said, this is what it's for. And she's like, are you taking? And I saw that she wanted me to be taking so that she wouldn't feel bad about taking. And I said, yes, I was looking to see if anybody had donated any lentils or beans. And there was one bag of beans. And she's like, oh, there's some beans. And I said, oh, this is great. And I told her it's like sometimes it's hard to make ends meet, and I was trying to make her feel better. And she's like, yeah, I know. And her husband had gotten laid off or something or whatever. So we were talking. And I said, you know what? Why don't you take the beans? You know how to cook the beans, right? And she's like, well, yeah. And it's like, because they freeze really well. And I was telling her, I told her a recipe that I found that was really cool. You cook down the beans with some ham and onion and you just let it freeze. And then you can actually, freeze it and all that stuff. And blah blah blah. And she's like, you don't mind if I take the beans? I said, no, no, I'll just check next time. I'm not in any hurry. I was gonna can them anyway. I don't can. I don't can. I was just telling her this. And so she ended up taking the can, I think it was a can of tomatoes and the beans. And I said, if you need more, you can take more. She's like, no, I really feel bad. And I said, but that's what it's there for. And she's like, I know, but other people might need it more than me. And I was like, I said, yeah, I know, but sometimes we're the neediest people. And she's like, yeah, that's true. And so she took some instant soup or something and then she left. And I was like, she would have just taken a can of tomatoes had I not actually gone out of my way to tell her, oh no, take the beans too. And sometimes people just don't want to take charity. Sometimes people just feel really bad because in their eyes, it's not something that looks pretty to other people. And I'm like, no, just charity is because we love our fellow man. We want our fellow man to actually, get a hand up whenever they're down. So it is one side of our beauty when we are charitable, when we want to give of ourselves to other people. And I'm really sorry if I'm talking a lot.
No,
Obviously, I have opinions.
no, you're fine. No, I was just thinking it's funny because I have a very similar story from when I was living in the city. One of the food we used to donate to one of the food banks all the time because there was a time when we were going to it all the time, and I had a very similar circumstance. I was about to take some stuff in, and somebody came out and asked if I was coming to give or to take, and I could see that they were coming out with some stuff already, so I assumed that they had already given. So I was like, "Well, this time we're giving." I always make a habit of making sure that when I get something from somewhere, when I can give it back, I always come back and give it back. So that kind of put them at ease too. It just made me think of that. That was forever ago though, but
No, I remember my dad when he first came here. He was because of the size of his family, we qualified for welfare, and he did not want to take it. He felt really bad taking welfare because he felt it should help somebody in need. And my mom had to talk him into it because we really needed the help. So my dad worked very long hours every day, and he would work on Saturdays, and um, just so that we could get out of the need for welfare. And we were only on welfare for, I think it was a year or so. And I won't lie, government cheese was the bomb. I love that stuff. Whenever that came in, I was like, yay! It was awesome. But for dad, it was a sign of weakness. And my mom had to actually tell my dad, it says, weakness is when you let your vanity and your ego dictate how to provide for your family. When you're given the opportunity, take it. And that's, after that, my dad was okay with, taking the welfare, but he really did not want to be on welfare. We were off of welfare with about, I want to say it was just over a year where he was finally out of it and didn't, and for him, it had been, he felt ugly taking welfare. But it wasn't until much later that he realized that because he did, we had a very comfortable lifestyle. We, the children, we lacked for nothing. We didn't have designer stuff. We didn't have, I mean, my mom still had, we had hand-me-downs. We still bought at the secondhand store, that kind of thing. My mom made our dresses. My mom made, she would, because she was very limited on means, she would embroider everything. I mean, everything. I had my my name embroidered on dresses. I had roses. I had all sorts of stuff, and it was all embroidered. And whenever it was time to hand it down, she would actually take out the embroidered name and redo it with somebody else's name. And she would do that for all of us. And her favorite embroidery floss was the variegated, which was, the ombre style.
Yeah.
And so she loved to use that. And it did such a beautiful, design and everything. But, um, you know, we still lacked for nothing. I never wanted for anything growing up. And that was something that I was very happy that I told my dad before he passed. When he came up here to visit and he saw, our house and the the whole lake and all of the woods surrounding it and everything. And he was like, "This is amazing." And I said, "Well, Dad, you taught us well. You taught us how to scrimp and to save, and so we would have something that we could afford and achieve. This is what you taught us when you did the same thing." And he was like, "I did that?" I said, "Yeah, you did." This is exactly how I mean, being in the military, it wasn't a cushy job. Everybody thinks that my husband being a doctor in the military paid well, but no, actually, it did not at all. We had a lot of friends that would actually just do their stint in the military, and they never re-upped. They just got out of the military so that they could make bank as doctors. And there was one of our friends, Pete. He was hilarious when he left. He let his hair grow. He had a mullet thing going with a porn stash and everything. He's a child of the 70s. I kid you not. He had aloha shirts everywhere. He was just he was hilarious. But he was making he his first year out of the military, he was making 6 times as much. He broke as he was when he was in the military, just 1 year out. And I was like, and it wasn't that he was a surgeon or anything. He was a pathologist. But that's the doctor's doctor. So that was we were just stunned. I mean, he was pulling in 600K, whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, maybe you should retire. It's just like, no.
Nope. But,
But being frugal and doing all that stuff, and sometimes our kids were like, why can't we have this? Why can't we get the new Nintendo this or the Switch that or the Xbox or this? And I said, we can't afford that. And they honestly did not understand until we told them. I said, the reason we cannot afford it is that next year they're going to come out with something else. And the year after that, they're going to come out with something else. And we cannot afford to do $500 and $600 each year just on a gaming console that's going to go out of, so pick one and stick with it until it dies. And that's, they actually they had their little powwow discussing the pros and cons of every single gaming console. Okay. They had the powwow about the games, what games they wanted to play on it, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And after much consideration and doing a debate back and forth, they finally arrived at 1 and 3 games. And so we decided, okay, that's going to be Christmas this year. And they were fine with that. As long as they had a gaming console. And let me tell you, that gaming console is still here in the house and they still play with it when they come visit.
That's awesome.
But that's, when you explain it in terms that they can understand, they're fine with it. I mean, my kids come here and they're just like, you're right. This is what you guys had wanted all this time. And now you have it. And now we have a place to come and it's our vacation. And I was like, yes, exactly. This is where the kids come to relax. And it's awesome for me. I get my kids and they get to relax and it's a win-win and it's beautiful.
Speaking of beautiful things, this made me laugh, so I have to share it now. It's from X. Libs, but who's going to pick our crops? Tesla. Juan Deere 3000. Oh.
Oh my goodness. Uh, it has been such a trippy week. Honest to God, Rick and I always ask, what do you want to talk about? And normally I have an idea and we run with it. And this time I was like, I have no idea. My brain was totally fried. But for some reason, the Sydney Sweeney ad kept popping into my head, and the whole thing about, is she pretty or not? And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about beauty.
Well,
And,
I mean, I'll be honest, for me, I think she's one of those people, and I think, again, after learning some of her story, it changed a little bit of it for me. But I think until I got to know a little bit more about her and some of the things that she's actually accomplished for as young as she is, I had her in the she's too pretty category.
uh-huh. Yeah, I can see it too.
But
And
then,
one of my favorite community notes was hers. Somebody, I think it was Variety or New York Post, somebody said Sydney Sweeney's boobs are not that big. And the community note that was rated the most helpful was, yes, they are.
and
That was it. And the link provided was just a picture of her boobs. It was the most glorious thing I'd ever seen. I didn't even know who the girl was. But that whole thing was hilarious. That community note still lives rent free in my head. It was so awesome.
well, this all goes back to, and I think part of the reason, as conservatives, I think we have an easier time finding things that are beautiful because beauty comes from mindset. And the
Yes.
Democrats have such a dark, negative mindset about everything that all they ever see is ugly. That's like, there are so many good things that have happened in the last 7 months, and all they see is the ugly. There are people that are absolutely beautiful inside and out, and all they ever see is the ugly because they're projecting how they feel about themselves onto everybody else. So one of the biggest takeaways for me about beauty, in order for you to be able to recognize it, in order for you to be able to see what it is, even though everybody's definition of beauty is different and we see things differently, and what's beautiful for one is not necessarily beautiful for the other. If you are in a bad place and you are in a dark place, you're not going to be able to see it anyway. It reminds me of one of the scenes from the pilot of Deep Space Nine when Jadzia Dax and Benjamin Sisko are both in the wormhole for one of the first times, and they get stopped and they come out, and there's all of a sudden there's atmosphere, and she's seeing this picturesque place, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and then it cuts to him, and it's like jagged rocks and clouds and lightning and wind and everything else. And she's all like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is beautiful." And he's like, "Are we seeing the same things?" Because they weren't. But that's kind of the difference with people. Your idea of what beauty is also going to be impacted by your mood. So the darker of a place that you're in, the worse that you feel about things, the less you're going to be able to see the things that actually are beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your complete and total mindset, the mental health that you enjoy or do not enjoy actually projects into what you determine to be beautiful or not. And, I see that with people who suffer from OCD, people who have a very a high anxiety life. I mean, people who suffer from high anxiety tend to have a very negative outlook on life. And so things that you and I would find very attractive or very pretty or whatever, they would see all of the flaws first. And that is something that I have had to tell people who do have OCD or who have that mindset. You have to break that pattern. You actually have to step back from that and actually look at all of the positive things before you look at the negative things. The negative things should actually come after the positive stuff. That actually does help establish a more happier outlook for you, and you begin to feed the endorphins begin to flow again. You get that positivity going. It actually makes you feel good. And my daughter was one. She has high anxiety. She suffers from OCD, and she was always looking at all of the negative things about every single thing. And I told her, I said, look, I'm not a therapist. I'm just going from how I had to treat my stuff and how I had to deal with things. But the moment I started looking at the positive of everything, the good qualities of everything, I started to feel better. And I think maybe you should do the same thing. And it took her a while, but she started to do the same thing. Now, she's not a Pollyanna like I am. Okay. She doesn't find a reason to be glad all the time, but she has at least made the effort on a daily basis, and it has made a vast improvement, So yeah, I agree. When you have a certain outlook that is completely negative, and you feed the negative feelings first, that's going to definitely affect how you see beauty in things. And anyway, we're
That was
up.
my deep thought for the moment.
No, but it's true. It's true, and it's something that I tell everybody. You don't have to be happy all day. You just have to find one thing to be happy about each day. That's enough. And that has gotten me through some of the worst times. By virtue of being in the military, it's always frowned upon, it's looked down on if you seek behavioral therapy. If you seek any behavioral medicine, it just looks bad. So I could not do that, and I had to learn to treat myself. I had to learn those tips, those tricks. And this was before the advent of the internet, where you could actually get on and find, ZocDoc or whatever, to talk to somebody on a Zoom call about your illness, about your treatments, or anything like that. And that's something that actually that helped me come out of those awful downturns that sometimes you would get when you dealt with depression and stuff. And yes, I know it sounds trite, and I know it sounds very elementary and possibly a little childish. Yes, it was from a children's movie, but believe me, it works. You don't have to be happy all day. You just have to find one thing that makes you happy each day, and that's it. Once you do that, you get into that habit, things start looking really beautiful after a while. And with that, I guess we should close the show.
And so concludes Deep Thoughts with Aggie.
All right, Rick, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
Don't look for me. It's a trap. Don't do it.
It's not a trap.
It's a trap. Don't do it.
It's not.
You can find me tomorrow. Me talking take two. You can find me pushing buttons first for the Front Porch Forensics crew tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can then find Juxtaposition on our new night, because we figured out what used to be our off night's actually been the one we can manage to get stuff done on. So we're just going to move it to that. So we have Juxtaposition tomorrow night. That'll be starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. Sunday night, back pushing buttons and second chair for Corn's reading room. Monday night, America Off the Rails. Tuesday night, daily show daily show starts again. That's Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon most of the time, and then we do an extended hour on Fridays because I have Brad on. And then Tuesday night, Manorama, and then you guys know the rest of the stuff. And if you don't, just go check out klrnradio.com. You can find me at RowdyRick73. I also contribute to MisfitsPolitics.com, Twitchy.com, TheLoftusParty.com, and I produce the Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. What about you, Aggie? Where can folks find you? Because you're the one they need to find.
No. Well, you can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern Tuesday nights doing the Cocktail Lounge with the ever suave Brad Slager. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Friday nights doing He Said, She Said with the awesome you. The second Tuesday, scratch that, the second Wednesday of every month, the guys get together for Toxic Masculinity at 8 p.m., where I bring the drink of the evening. And Jeff and I now do a book podcast. It's called Spirited Books, and it premieres on the first Monday of every month. We had to postpone this one, which was this past Monday, but we're hoping that we can do it this coming Monday. So stay tuned for that, for an update. And that would be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining us, you guys. Thanks for letting us ramble on. It was a lot of fun.
All right, folks, we are going to get out of here. And Aggie, I'm telling you, you could just save time. Just tell everybody your shows are all on Aggie time, except the once a month thing. Oh, speaking of which, this will be this is the Toxic Masculinity Week coming up too, because it is the second.
Yes,
second
it's the
Wednesday.
second.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us.